Give a damn about a hater when I feel like it. Not today. Give a damn about a hater when I feel like it. Not today, not today, not today, not tomorrow. Get out my way, please, I'm trying to get paid. Not today, not today.
And the board is now in session. Let's call this meeting to order. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into the first board meeting of the 2023 seasons. It is Bully the Board. Glad to be with you. Glad to be back. Welcome to everyone who's new, and thank you to everyone who is back. In case you are new here, we are collectively Bully the Board. There's the three amigos. I'm Kevin, Seth, and Steve. Seth, how you doing, man?
I'm doing well. Super excited to finally get back to the season. It's been a long summer. Super excited to talk everything futures today.
Yes, sir. And Steve, how are you, my man?
Living a dream. Ready to get back into some football action.
Living the dream. I haven't heard that phrase in like 3 weeks. But once every 3 weeks, someone says, and you're like, I know you hate your life, dude. Stop. Okay.
Yeah. We all know living a dream is dystopian nightmare.
Seth touched on it briefly, but we got a pretty good lineup, I think, for you guys here for the first show of the year. So we're going to be talking about all things futures, both NFL and college football. So stay tuned and be sure, if you guys are new, follow us everywhere. Please like this. Please subscribe. Follow us at Bully the Board on all social medias, Instagram, Twitter, or I guess X, it's called now, right? TikTok, everything. And our website, of course, is just bullytheboard.com. So please make sure you subscribe to stay up with the latest. So all that plug stuff out the way. Let's talk some NFL, baby. We want to get into the season. I don't even know where to begin other than I'm super excited. I'm sure you guys are too, but I want to break down some NFL matchup information here. So we're going to go to NFL matchup maps, okay? So Seth, let me start with you, man. We got our futures model and some analysis that we want to break down, but when you think of the upcoming season, like what comes to your mind first, and what are you thinking of for the 2023 season?
Yeah, I mean, we've been busy in this off season, and we developed a whole new database, switching from a DVOA based model to an EPA based model. Number of other statistics as well, but really excited to test that out, and we've also really have a cool tool that we're using with Unabated and running some simulations. So I'm excited for both those things, and I don't know, to kind of just see how it all pans out.
Okay. Yes, Steve. Any high level thoughts before we get into the nitty gritties?
No, I just want to say that, I echo Seth's sentiments. We made some changes to the model in the offseason. We've learned a lot from last year going to this year, and I'm really stoked to, hope we have a little more stability in the NFL just in general as a fan, and, with the quarterback carousel last year, but looking to get into some matchups that we have a lot of edge here, and I'm looking to exploit the market.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's not bury the lead, shall we? So Seth, give us a sense of what we're looking at here, and let's break down a couple of these matchups here, or for the matchup maps.
Yeah. So this is the EPA based EPA per play for both offense on the x-axis and EPA per play on defense on the y-axis. So this gives us an idea of a per play efficiency metric for each team. Now, these are, of course, unadjusted EPA numbers. You can't just use blind faith, but this does a really good job of really kind of showing you where teams were last year. And I think it exemplifies it, right? You see Kansas City by far and away was the most efficient offense. And what do you know? They won the Super Bowl. And it's not like the Eagles were a bad team either, right? They were one of the best teams. So this EPA-based efficiency landscape or matchup map allows you to kind of tease these things out. And I think for me, also looking forward, this helps us understand where teams need to improve, right? A la Lions, New York, obviously teams like Chicago, which we'll get into. How do these teams need to improve for us to see, how they're going to have a different season in 2023?
Okay, so you both mentioned it real quick, but I want to talk about the Bully the Board futures model, what it is, generally speaking, what goes into it, and what it's telling us for this upcoming year, because I know we want to break down a couple of them for sure. So
yeah, so I mean, it's always a DVOA based approach for us. DVOA is one of the more stable metrics that you can use. Of course, you can use EPA, but DVOA is an adjusted metric, so we can use these, and we have used these for projection, and that's exactly what we're going to talk about with our futures model. So this is the matchup map of the DVOAs, forecasted DVOAs for 2023. So it takes into account some of the changes we've seen throughout the off season.
Okay. All right, Steve. So for anyone who doesn't know, again, if you're not following us on social medias, please do. We're pretty active on TikTok. That's our biggest account. We do a lot of lives basically every single day, going over these graphs, talking about the various teams, getting off different takes. But for you, Steve, what is your takeaway when you look at this information here and how you're thinking of that and using it going into this season?
Yeah, I think, to Steph's point, it can tell you where teams need to improve from last year to this year. And it also tells you where teams regressed from last year to this year as well. And so these are forecasted DVOA. So, week by week, we will update this, and you'll see this on our website and on our socials. But teams will move, obviously, as we get more data on a week by week basis. And the teams that I'm looking at to have the biggest movement in week one is, people who have made really big splashes in the offseason. And we'll talk about why I really like the Falcons, and some of my feelings about the Bears and kind of where they're projected at right now versus where I think they're going to end up throughout the year. And so the biggest thing that stands out to me is, who on this map is a contender and who's a pretender, right? Like who is maybe overachieving and who may be underachieving starting here. And you look at the Kansas Cities, the Bengals, right? Those are teams you expect to be stable contenders year in, year out. I think Cleveland's going to be a contender. And then you have other teams as well where, are the Jets maybe a little overrated? Are the Saints going to regress a little bit? Who on these are really going to be it? But that's why I'm using this map on a week by week basis, kind of influence my futures bets and my week to week bets.
Okay. So then what have you done, Steve? What are the play or the plays that you're looking at and saying, wow, this is just jumping off the chart at me. Our numbers are just not vastly different from what the market has, but what are you doing? What are you doing with this data, and how have you used them to make bets?
Yeah, first and foremost, so my one I'm in love with the most, and probably not to talk myself into it so much, is the Atlanta Falcons over 8.5 wins. That to me is definitely a big one. You can see, I might have to zoom in a little bit on this one, but you can see that the Falcons over win had a huge look on the positive EV. We're over the 20% mark, which is kind of our base mark. If you watch our other videos and running the 10,000 simulated seasons, that probability is sitting up, north of 70%, which is pretty good. So what I like though is not just taking this for what it is, but kind of looking at why the Falcons could be good. So you have a couple of things here, right? So first things first is, who are they playing and what have they done? And so if we look at the Falcons, they have the second easiest of the schedule behind only the Saints coming into this year. We had the simulated season win average at 10.5 wins. But to me, the big thing is not just their competition in NFC South, but also the amount of rookie quarterbacks they could be looking at this year. So, you have the Panthers twice, right? You have the Texans, you have the Colts, right? So those are at least 4 games against rookie quarterbacks. And then on top of that, what have they done in the offseason? When we go back to the matchup map, you can see the biggest Achilles heels for the Falcons last year, especially, was defense. So what did they do? Oh, I don't know, just go out and get some defensive studs coming in this year. And so, we have on the defensive line, Bud Dupree, Calais Campbell, David Onyemata, right? Eddie Goldman, right? These guys are all studs coming in last year. You can see these are their Pro Football Focus ranks for their positions last year. So these are major upgrades. And then the linebacker position, you bring in Caden Ellis from the Saints. You get some help back in the secondary with Jeff Okudah and then Jesse Bates, who I think is going to be a huge lift coming from the Bengals. This just screams to me that these are the old school, good defense, run the ball down your throat kind of teams. They're going to just bully their way through the NFC South. And I think 8.5 wins is completely within reach. So that's what I'm excited about.
Can I ask a question on that? I agree with all of that. And full transparency, I've bet the over. I mean, our model and our sims really show a lot of value there. But my one problem with the Achilles heel of this bet is Desmond Ridder. I mean, they've done all this stuff. Sure, they have London coming back off injury, tight end coming back off injury, but then like Desmond Ridder sucks. He sucked last year. A very small sample size, but this is a lot of wins for basically somewhat of a rookie quarterback here.
Yeah, I for me, this is where I disagree with that, right? So I don't disagree in the sense that, let's look at the stats. We have, and you can find on our websites, we have the QB volatility map where you can see how productive quarterbacks were and how inconsistent they were, right? Desmond Ridder, small sample size, played 4 games last year. Wasn't great, wasn't horrible, but definitely was not good. I mean, statistically, he was in the quadrant of what? Let's call it what it was, right? He was not good, right?
I mean, he was literally the worst spot you would want to be. I want to hold you to the fire there. He was consistently bad. He was the worst quadrant that you can be. I mean, now small sample size, but
yeah. But look at those games though, right? In the games that Desmond Ridder played, you have the worst. Well, I'm saying they're not the worst, but they're really, really bad Falcons defense. So what does that mean late in games? You're passing the ball. You're abandoning the run game in terms of proportion of your plays because you're playing catch up, which makes a bad quarterback worse when the defense knows you have to throw the ball. And so for me, the biggest difference between last year and this year, Desmond Ridder is going to be, he's not going to be expected to win the games. He's going to be expected to make plays. Don't get me wrong, but he's going to be the Brock Purdy of the NFC South, where you're going to have a strong run game around him. You're going to have explosive talent around him and a good defense to keep him into games, where he just needs to be a Daniel Jones type. Make me some plays. You don't have to get crazy, right? But just keep us in the game versus, a Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen where, no, you got to win us a game and it's on your shoulders. That to me is the biggest difference about the Falcons system that I think is going to gear Desmond Ridder up for success. And really the Falcons.
All right.
Desmond Ridder is the Brock Purdy of the NFC South.
Yeah, I think that is the craziest take I've heard in a long time. Look how efficient Brock Purdy is. Look how efficient he is. What are you talking about?
What are Brock Purdy's plays? So what is Brock Purdy surrounded with, right? You have the Kittles, the Ayuks, the McCaffreys, right? Brock Purdy is not throwing 90-yard bombs to the end zone, right? Brock Purdy's not going through, like, he's a very efficient quarterback because he has a very efficient system. I think that's what Atlanta's trying to copy here. Now, I could be wrong. Don't get me wrong, but I think that it's very clear to me what they're trying to build. And they're taking the pressure off Ridder, knowing that he is a second-year quarterback, but effectively is a rookie, kind of like the Jordan Love situation. And they're building for success here. I have all the faith in the world in what they're doing, and I think it's going to pan out in a division where there's not going to be a ton of stiff competition.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Yeah, like I said, I bet it. I think that's the Achilles heel of this bet. Desmond Ridder could be bad, and if he's bad, I totally disagree with the argument. Like the whole ship sinks. Like all your defensive players, all that. Like I think it goes down. But
sure, the reason I disagree with that is I get what you're saying. That's totally right. Like the quarterback is the most important position, but who they pick up? Taylor Heineke. Taylor Heineke has proven he can win games with a Washington Commander system. You cannot tell me that Atlanta's going to be at least worse than Washington was. They can't.
8.5's a lot of 8.5's a lot of games. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean,
all right. Let's pull up the futures model again here.
Okay.
Because we got some internal disagreements, some strife.
It's it's internal disagreement. I just think I've seen this take. I mean, obviously, it's not egregious enough for me to not bet it. I've bet this. Right. Yeah. And to take a step back, I don't think we described kind of the model and the approach this year. Right. So using DVOA projected 2023 DVOAs, we then run that through a season simulator using Unabated's tool. If you want to learn more about that, check unabated.com out. They have a lot of really cool tools. Some are free. And then, of course, they have their paid package, which allows you to get the simulation and things like that. But we find it extremely valuable for looking at alpha and trying to find edges. And so to me, it's not egregious enough to not bet it. It's a big enough edge. But it's kind of like a sexy pick that, like, I think we could all be looking dumb at the end of the season. Like, oh yeah, Desmond Ridder, he was bad, wasn't he? But Maybe not, right? Small sample size can go both ways, right? We
Yeah.
have a small sample size, and like Steve alluded to, maybe that was a small sample of kind of biased data, right? It was there's the signal is not really in there. So yeah, I'm on it. I bet it.
Yeah. Okay, good. Well, let's stay in the NFC South then for a minute, because another play or prediction that we're looking at with our model is the Carolina Panthers and the under for their season win total of 7.5. This is another one. So this is one that I've personally bet as well. So our number says that Panthers are going to win median of 6 games this year. Only giving them, as you can see on the chart here, about 27% chance for the over. So this ties back to what you guys are saying, what we're saying about the Falcons. Like, this, in my mind, is the Bryce Young effect. Like, I don't this division with the quarterback play that is going to be thrown out on the field. This division will probably lead the league in number of quarterbacks started, or different number of quarterbacks started over the season. Who the hell knows that yo-yo that's going to happen probably in Tampa Bay. Do we really think Derek Carr and the Saints are going to have this loving hunky-dory relationship? I'm not sold on that. Bryce Young, obviously with the Panthers, he might be the new glass man of the NFL. Slight stature, I'm not sure if his body will hold up against the rigors of an NFL season. And then we just talked about Desmond Ridder as well. So the Panthers are interesting to me. When I saw this pop up on the results, I was like, all right, let me dig into this a little more. So if the Panthers had Sam Darnold again, or maybe some other veteran quarterback under center, I might not feel as strongly about this one as maybe I do now. But I really like
Andy Dalton isn't a veteran.
Huh?
Andy Dalton isn't a veteran?
No, yeah, Andy Dalton is, but he's not starting for the Panthers.
Oh, I thought you said that if they had like a veteran behind him. I mean, Andy Dalton.
Oh no, if they had a veteran starting.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah. So a couple of things, like anecdotally though, like using a mental model, if you will. I mean, using projected wins on their opponents, they do have a pretty easy schedule, like 4th easiest in the league. Take that for what it's worth. I think that's a big product or large product of that division. It being the enigma that it is. But you juxtapose that, and right now going into the season, they're only favored in 4 games right now across the season. So the market isn't particularly high on them from that standpoint either. I think one of the breaking down the data a little bit and pulling some info that came out in Warren Sharp's book a little earlier this summer. They lost DJ Moore, their top receiving option, right? So the receivers and the running back group on that offense is not quite paltry, but for a rookie quarterback, I think it's going to be tough for him to, he doesn't have these all-star playmakers by him. And the Panthers, top to bottom, are probably due, to use that word, even though it's, whatever. They're probably due for regression in turnover and fumble luck this year. So they were basically +5 over expected last season, which ranked pretty high. So I think broadly, I would expect them to come back down to earth a little bit there. And again, I don't know Frank Reich. He got up to a very slow start his first time around as a head coach with the Colts. And I think that's a product of his system. And you add in a rookie quarterback on top of that, learning new things, learning the NFL system. I think it's going to be slow go for them out the gate. So all that is why I like Panthers under 7.5, baby.
Yeah, I don't disagree. This is another one I bet. I agree with you. I think there's alpha there. One of the things here for me that is kind of in line with this is all of the rookie quarterbacks, right? Carolina, Houston, Indy, in one way or another, I bet basically for all of them to struggle. I do think one of them will probably be, median to maybe a little bit successful. They're probably not all 3 going to struggle, but the higher probability play here is that you're going to see rookies struggle. And maybe you do see all 3 of them struggle. And so I agree with you. I like this. We were under Carolina last year. It came down to week 18, and an upset in New Orleans. So, I agree. This is a very interesting team. And you said, like new quarterback. I mean, knew everything, right? This is a new head coaching
yeah.
staff. Like, so how much can you really forecast this team correctly? I don't know. I mean, that to me, it's interesting. They're favored in 4 games. How do you really go off that? This is a whole new roster. So interesting for me. Any takes there, Steve?
No. I mean, I think this is going to be a team that struggles with a rookie quarterback that I'm high on, years 3, 4, and 5. Right. But now, I think this is, you're going to see what you expect to see.
And this is going to be a double dip for us, but either, very good or very bad. The Falcons could overperform and then,
True.
Be help us out in this Panthers one, or vice versa. The Panthers do better than expected, which in a way affects the Falcons over as well. So I hope I don't know. Maybe this one will be a season-long sweat again, but doing the whole analysis of the season, I think 8 wins will be hard to come by for the Panthers. But that is remains.
I'm so traumatized from last year. Like to get you excited for week 1, you have a built-in win and loss week 1 because we have Carolina playing Atlanta week 1. We have the over Atlanta over Carolina. So hopefully that can go our way there.
Right. Yeah. All right, Seth. So let's move on here. So we got 2 plays on the NFC South that we're looking at for our futures model. What else has jumped off to you? What else is a play for you this year?
Yeah, so I think one of the more interesting things that came out of the Sims is Browns really to take a step forward. Our model is putting a 75% chance on the over, which is a 29% edge. If you see here, projected DVOAs are really projecting the Browns to take that step forward. And, quite frankly, for Deshaun to kind of more than likely play, like he played in Houston versus what he played last year. And I think some of the catalysts for why this could be is, when he was suspended for those 10 games, he was not allowed to be part of the team, be at the facility. He was not allowed to be, part of practices. So everything up until that point was theoretical. And don't forget, he also sat out the season before. So this is somebody that, quite literally sat out a season and a half, was jolted right into to a midseason league. That's pretty difficult, right? And if you look at, seeing like how Jacoby did, Jacoby was more efficient than average in that offense. So to me, that gives hope that, Deshaun can really learn this offense, command a lot more of it than we saw last year. And I think that's what's driving this step forward. And so I love this pick. I think it's one that feels a little uncomfortable, no doubt, but I really do think that this mostly is being driven by a Deshaun Watson taking, I don't even know if it's a step forward, but a step to where we've seen him be before.
Interesting. All right. I got a quick exercise for you then on this, because over under is set at 9.5.
Yeah.
So we need double digit wins here for this to hit, right?
Okay.
So I'm just gonna rapid fire this, and I need a W or I need an L. Okay.
Okay.
So week 1 at home against the Bengals. Joe Burrow question mark.
L.
Week 2,
L.
Week 2 at the Steelers.
W.
Home against the Titans.
W.
Home against the Ravens.
W.
Okay, then their bye week, early bye week. Week 6, home against the Niners.
W.
Week 7 at the Colts.
Oh, W.
Week 8 at Seattle.
Oh, W.
Have we hit the over already? Damn. Okay, week 9, home against the Browns.
Home against, they play themselves.
Or, sorry, home against the Cardinals.
Another W. Where are we at? 6?
Okay. Yeah, week 10 at the Ravens.
L. I think they'll split the Ravens.
Home against the Steelers.
I'll split the divisions. L.
Okay. At the Broncos.
W. I'm low on the Sean Payton effect.
Yep, same here. At the Rams.
W.
Home against the Jags.
Ooh, that's a tough one because it's hard to understand where the Jags are going to be. What's the matchup map say for them? Low defense projection, but similar offense. I'll lean Cleveland here.
Okay, another W. Home against the Bears.
Sorry, Steve. W.
At the Texans.
W.
Home against the Jets.
L. We'll give
week
Aaron
18
Rodgers like
Yeah. And then week 18 at the Bengals.
W, because we split week 1. What's that give me? 10?
That gives you definitely more than 10.
Oh, okay. I wasn't even. Yeah, I mean,
I was like, that was. I think.
I mean, that's an interesting. That's a little interesting of a last. That last leg isn't so crazy. I mean, other than finishing out on the Bengals.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I generally have the same sentiment as you, but double-digit wins is. I don't hate the bet, but I haven't pulled the trigger personally myself on it yet. I'm a little hesitant. So I mean,
that bet goes as Deshaun goes. If we see another lackluster season from him, then yeah, this is not going to hit, right? I mean, this tells you all. Okay, who was Deshaun Watson last year? Deshaun Watson is right here, or right here, right? So he's a little bit more inconsistent than average, but he's basically way lower than efficiency than average last year. But who is Deshaun Watson in his career? You know, more consistent than average and more efficient than average, right? So you need to see this Deshaun Watson to realize that 9 wins, right? I think it's as simple as that to me.
It is, yeah. Okay, all right. Well, you mentioned it only in passing. You apologized to Steve in real time. As a resident Bears fan, another interesting forecast from our model has the Bears, and it absolutely loves the Bears under. But Steve, guide us to the light, man. Tell us what the hell is wrong with this, or why you do or don't like it.
Yeah, well, I think context matters, right? And we talk about when you're forecasting, you're simulating, you're modeling. Like there are things that no matter how hard you try, you can never 100% forecast while we play the game, right? And there's things that you intentionally leave out because there's no way to quantify that, right? And then you're left with everything else. And so I think context matters. If you look at who the Bears were strictly on a piece of paper last year, right? They were a terrible team. They got the number 1 pick, right? Worst team in the league. The offense was absolutely abysmal. The defense was even worse. But if you take a step back and look at what was really happening, right? You had a team who traded away arguably their 2 best players on defense as a midseason tank to stock up for this year. You had a team whose offensive line gave Justin Fields no pocket whatsoever. And so the fact that they can even put up points despite that was a miracle, nothing short of a miracle, right? And then you have the reload of this year, right? You have all these things that are being addressed either through the draft, like our offensive line protection, through trades, like are you getting DJ Moore as our wide receiver number 1, and excuse me, also going through and picking up a bunch of key free agents on the defensive end. Headlining that class is Tremaine Edmonds from Buffalo, who's going to replace Roquan Smith as our stud linebacker, right? And so on paper, I get it. The Bears suck, and the Bears probably will suck again. That's what we do best. But when you look into what's actually going on to this year, I think the Bears have a much, much, much higher ceiling than what's being projected out. And so that's why I'm pretty against this bet, not as an emotional Bears fan, which I am, but also is like the ceiling is way too high to be capped at, below this total. So, yeah, but I know, but let's talk about it.
No, I agree with you 100%. I think you hit the head on the nail. Like when you're looking at forecasting a team, like there's no known variable where you can have an accurate model and give a team go from 3 wins to 8 wins, right? There's no statistic in the world to put it in perspective. Tom Brady's, Tom Brady led Tampa Bay futures over unders 8.5. Without it, with you put in Baker Mayfield, it's 6.5. Okay, Tom Brady's worth 2 games, right? Just to put it in context here. So what can the Bears really do to see them have this kind of, really, I would say good season where they win 8 games? But you're right. They've done all the pieces that you would need to do to win 8 or more games, right? So I think this is a perfect example of models fall short of trying to quantify something, and your mental model or what we quote unquote know can sometimes outweigh that, right? We know if you're a 3-win team that wins, gets the first pick, and then you trade away to get even more pieces, that's what you need to do to win 8 games. So the model doesn't know that, right? It just goes, okay, well, this guy's incrementally better here. This guy's incrementally better here. This is incrementally there. And you add that to what they did last season. Well, okay, it bumps them up to, I think 5 is their median wins. That's almost double the amount of wins they got last year, right? Which is a lot, but it's just not, it doesn't get us close enough to that, to the 7.5, 8. So I'm with you. I think that the true alpha here is not 41%. There isn't a 41% EV. That being said, I don't really have, I mean, we're going to talk about it here, but I think Packers can be a lot better. I think they could still struggle, and maybe they win 7 games, which is still in my book an improvement for that team. So I bet it. And I think I like too that it's just a little uncomfortable. Kind of goes against, okay, well, they've done all these pieces, so of course that means they're going to have success. I mean, we still haven't seen that yet. And without that, I'm comfortable taking it, but I totally agree. The alpha here, the true EV, is nowhere near 41%.
Yeah, and I think, to piggyback off that, the North, there's so much instability in the North, for what's going to happen with the Packers, with Jordan Love transition from Aaron Rodgers, right? Detroit completely have lost. I don't say they completely revamped, but that secondary is completely different. DeAndre Swift's gone. The key pieces in the offense are gone. Then Minnesota, who's arguably the most stable team in the North, they had huge regressions, even in the market line, going from 13 wins last year to their market line is 8.5 wins, right? Because we talked about last year, we feel like they punched up. So there's just so much chaos in the North that can work either for the Bears or against the Bears. I can go both ways. And I will say one last point real quick to your point about modeling and how much you can have expected shift. Right? Trevor Lawrence, right? The Jags went from 3-14 to 9-8 when Trevor Lawrence. Is Trevor Lawrence better than Tom Brady? Is Trevor Lawrence the undisputed GOAT?
Yeah.
When it
right.
So
the power's in the locks.
Yeah. Samsonite. Yeah. So I get it. I get it, man.
Yeah. That's
okay.
tough.
So Seth, you mentioned it though. So the model has a lot of interesting output for the NFC North specifically. So you mentioned the Packers. That's another one. That's another one from our output that there's value to be had on their over, actually, which as far as I can tell, you guys correct me if I'm wrong, like that most people are predicting and this is the Aaron Rodgers effect, right? They're projecting 2 steps back for the Packers this year, just in terms of watchability, in terms of efficiency, and top to bottom, right? But what is it about this team and what does the data say to suggest that may not be the case?
I mean, a couple things stand out to me. One, we have a little bit of data on Love that is, I would say, kind of similar to Desmond Ridder. Like, who is he really? I mean, every time he played, it was either a blowout win or it was COVID, right? So it's a little bit complicated here. To look at DVOA, where does DVOA project this team? As a completely median offense and basically a median defense. If we hop on over to the EPA-based efficiency on who this team was last year, we see that Green Bay was a little bit better than average, and their defense was what struggled. They've made a number of pieces there. They have a really solid run game. So I think basically what this bet is that Love can be an average quarterback, and this team can just be an average team. And when you put the number at 7.5, that's not that difficult to do. And then you plop them in that division where Steve just said it best. There's an insane amount of unknown. I mean, just to put it in perspective, the model is also very low and kind of agrees with our projection that Vikings are going to take a step back, right? So if that's a lot easier of a division, then it's not as difficult for them to win the 8 or 9 that they need. They need to win 8 to cover that bet. And so that's a bet that I'm high on. I think people are overreacting, I think, to the Aaron Rodgers thing. Aaron Rodgers wasn't this Superman last year. In fact, he was dare I say bad last year?
Yeah.
I think he was average. Yeah. So he had an average EPA, right? but he was volatile, right? Play to play. Now that's a veteran play. Now, to kind of piggyback this argument, well, does that mean that the Jets fans should be freaking out? No, not really, because this is who Aaron Rodgers has been over his career, right? Very efficient, very consistent. So we've kind of seen it in Hard Knocks and just life overall. It looks like Aaron Rodgers wanted the hell out of Green Bay. He got what he wanted, and he looks like a whole different dude. So was it just frustration last year, and he wanted out, the team wanted him out, and you get an average quarterback? So I think the pieces are there to help Jordan Love. The other thing, though, is with this, it's a young wide receiving core. We saw that core kind of not help Aaron Rodgers last year, which is interesting. So they're also going to have to take a step forward in order to see that bet. But I think overall, I think Steve said it best here. This is a really just unknown wide open. And this is a team that if they can stay stable with the run game and their defense, like they may just be like one of the, they may be a median team in the league, but good in that division.
Yeah, and I will say, at some point when you talk about, sports betting and gambling in general and using statistics and data and whatnot, if you want to be really good at it, you have to start taking your emotions out of it and really starting to figure out what is truth and what you're seeing and what are your own biases. With that being said, there's no way in hell I'm making this bet, but I think it's a damn good bet. And honestly, I will begrudgingly make it before the season begins because it's a smart bet. There's just too much unknown. If there's any team, any organization that is good at grooming quarterbacks on the bench behind a superstar, it's the Packers. I mean, look what Aaron Rodgers did post Brett Favre era, right? That transition was pretty much seamless. So there are question marks, but they can have a sub 500 season and still win this bet. It's a smart bet. Yeah.
Coming from a Bears fan, I respect it. Yeah. You said it best. What's signal? What's noise here? This is a bet I like. I mean, I feel very comfortable making it, plus I think it's minus 115. You're not laying a crazy amount of juice here. And to your point, they can win 8 games. Like that's not necessarily a successful season, but that's a covered bet.
Right. Exactly.
All right. Do we miss any takeaways or teams that we want to hit on as far as the futures? Because I want to get into some other takes that we have for the upcoming future on NFL.
Yeah, I think just to shout out the kind of highest EV bets from here. If you look at just the top 20 or anything with 20% or greater, what you end up taking is the Falcons over, the Browns over, the Packers over, the Raiders over, which we didn't really get into, the Vikings under, the Texans under, the Bears under, and the Panthers under. So those are kind of the 8 that I would start with, so to speak, and work through. And for me, I bet all of those. I feel comfortable betting all of those. I like the edges. Some are better than others. Like we talked about the Bears. I'm sure the Bears aren't that much EV, but I still lean the under there. So I think those are the big takeaways for me.
Okay. All right. Well, what about, let's hit zoom out now as far as some takes on the upcoming season where there's some data to suggest, or you have a feeling based on some sims or whatever it may be that you guys have hit or thinking about hitting. So Steve, I want to start with you real quick. Outside of team futures, or sorry, Seth, I want to start with you real quick. Outside of team futures, what is or what are 1 or 2 plays that you have based on either projected DVOA, the EPA stuff, or just mental models?
Yeah. So actually, one of my favorites here, Seahawks under. You see, there's a 16%, and I zoom in here. Sorry, a 16% edge on the under, but that hold for that market, just the way the season or the books are set up right now, you can bet into a 0 hold market, which I love to do whenever I can create 0 hold markets. So I love the under here, and let me tell you why. We saw Geno have a pretty successful season compared, for him, right? They were overall successful, but who was Geno on a per play basis? Geno was, better than average, right? His EPA per play was better than average, yes, but he was more volatile than average. This is with Lockett. This is with DJ Metcalf. But who who is Geno Smith when we zoom out and we look at like over 1,000 passes since 2010? His EPA per play, what do you know? This is one of the most volatile quarterbacks in that time, right? There's only a couple standout characters above him, right? And he was less than average. I think 2022 was a Cinderella season for Geno, and I think that in 2023, Geno turns it back to a pumpkin. I think that we're going to see massive regression from the Seahawks. I like the under. I like betting into that zero hold. I like the, basically implied 16% edge there. And so that's one of the things that I'm very different than the market. I think the addition of basically one piece at wide receiver, who is going to be an addition, no doubt, doesn't change their outlook more than where they were. I think the other really big concern for me in that team here is if we look at their offensive line, I have a big concern if we look at some of the team data. If we look at this time to throw and PFF offensive line ranks, we see that the PFF rank for offensive line puts the Seahawks at the 30th or the third worst offensive line in the NFL this season. And Geno isn't the quickest to get the ball out, right? So yes, they have good pieces, but if he's running for his life, this could be the kind of Achilles heel here. Now, can he work on that, and can he start getting the ball out quick? Maybe. He's going to have to, quite frankly. Yeah, but I think those are, to me, the concerns I have for that team. The only other, I think, big take I have that I'm different than the market with is the Raiders. So the Raiders, we project them to go over their number of 6.5. But this is, in my opinion, going to be a much more competitive team with Jimmy G than they were with Derek Carr. And I'm not sure why the market is so against them. I know that they have the second hardest schedule. Of course, that's difficult. But this team had a lot of things bounce against them last year. So they're due for some positive regression, but I really do like the addition and the upgrade at quarterback from Garoppolo from Derek Carr. And it's a small sample size, but if we zoom out, a lot of people say, well, Garoppolo is only good because he's in the Shanahan system. And that might be true. We don't know. We'll find out this season. But we do have a small subset of games where Jimmy played at the Patriots and started for an offensive coordinator, none other than his new head coach, right? And in those games, Jimmy was a very efficient quarterback. He was actually in the quadrant of elite, where he was more efficient than average and less volatile than average. So there is some, data to suggest that we will see him have success outside of San Francisco. And I think because of that, we could really see Vegas kind of, bloom a little bit.
Interesting. Okay. No, I like that a lot. All right, Steve, what are you eyeballing, or what have you pulled the trigger on already?
No, I mean, that's pretty much summed it up perfectly for me. I think the only thing that is really on my mind is Dak Prescott, season leader in interceptions. If we go back to the volatility map, it's just been, he has consistently been inconsistent, right? And, him being tied with Davis Mills last year for leading the league in interceptions, despite missing 4 games, it's just classic Dak. And I think this is the season where you see Dallas have to do it, or that relationship with Dak may be over. But I just think what we see is with Dak is who he is. He's going to be a great player. He's going to put up gaudy numbers. He's going to be an amazing fantasy quarterback from a production standpoint, except those interceptions are going to hurt you, right? And so right now I think Josh Allen is the favorite, but I would take Dak all day. And they actually, can we just scroll down real quick to the career, last 10 years EPA. I just want to shout out to Jay Cutler for being able to hurt me years after retirement as a Bears fan, leading the group with the inconsistency. Yeah,
inconsistency and less than average.
Yeah, no one liked him.
Is that hurtful, or isn't? I feel like that's vindicated. Like that's like your ex getting like arrested for murder or something. Like, yeah, they're a bad person. Like,
I knew it.
I know, because I still dated her. It sort of reminds me.
You were at risk, I guess. Yeah. Good, fair point.
Yeah, so for me, I was in a similar vein to Dak Prescott, but let's stay here for a second. I want to talk about the Dolphins and Tua.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
Similar situation there. I mean, Tua's he's throwing touchdowns or he's getting sacked and throwing picks. That's kind of like the extreme of Tua, and you can it's reflected here in the data. But that being said, and not to mention he's potentially the new glass man in the NFL. Like, who knows if he gets another concussion, like what that's going to do to him, right? But presuming that he's able to stay upright for most of the season, we think that the Dolphins are set to overachieve relative to what the market thinks this year. So for anyone who doesn't know, for the past 3 years, we've been running sort of not quite a model, right? But it's a little bit of an art and science projection here with a futures play. So 2 years ago, we earmarked the LA Rams to win the Super Bowl. Last year, we earmarked the Philadelphia Eagles to win the Super Bowl in the summertime. And this year, using a combination of Warren Sharp's metrics and some other data in the marketplace, we've identified that the Dolphins are one of the teams this year that are set or primed to overachieve this year. So if Tua, again, it's $1 million question, but if Tua can stay upright again, if Mike McDaniels in that offense, Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill, Mostert, that whole group can just keep it together, damn it, for the whole season. I don't particularly think that the Dolphins are going to win the Super Bowl, because with this method, we're hoping to capture value later in the season, presumably when they make the marketplace, to be able to cash out on a bet and keep some of our upside, because we have 2 bets for 1 unit for them to win the Super Bowl. So I really like the Dolphins to overachieve this year. I think that the AFC in general is just a gauntlet of gauntlets, particularly that division with the Bills and the Patriots and Jets. Like, it's scary. It is scary, but Tua surprised me personally last year. I did not think he was going to be that good of a quarterback, but if he can rein it in, if he can rein the volatility in a little bit, when he's on, he is on. He is quite efficient. So if Mike McDaniels can work in maybe some screen passes or some, freaking dink and dunks, over the course of the games, like, I think we'll see some sustained results from them.
But he had a reason to be volatile, though, right? I mean, he had 3, probably 4 concussions.
Yeah, but remember, that's a per play basis. That's a per play metric. He wasn't concussed on maybe 5% of his plays, his overall plays.
Yeah, that post concussion syndrome's real, bro. I don't know. Go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
No. I was just gonna say, well, to your point, like, who the Dolphins are overall offensively, it's hard to know because he missed so many games, right? And like, early when he was playing, they were one of the most efficient offenses, no doubt. And when you see him, at his best, then no doubt. I was gonna ask Kevin, did you get to see the preseason game yesterday against the Texans?
No, but I heard picked off first play of the
throws an interception. I can't say what he was concussed.
That's fine.
Yeah, he's still lingering. I mean, I'm with you. I think the AFC is tough. I've bet this as well using kind of art science. We've had really good success with this. I can't say I'm like super pumped about it, but the one thing I wanted to point out is the Dolphins on defense, they struggled against the pass. And what did they go do in the offseason? Pretty much everything to correct that issue. I mean, they were drafting corners. They traded for Ramsey. They got a number of safeties in free agency. I mean, they are committed to solving that problem. Obviously, the Ramsey injury kind of sucks. Obviously, it's a big trade, and we're not going to see him at the beginning of the season. Hopefully, we'll be able to see him later in the season. I don't think this is a bad bet. And to your point, I do think this team, if they stay on track, Tua stays healthy, we can see them overperform.
Yep, that's what I'm hoping. That's what we're banking on. So it's going to be, I don't know, it's going to be, like I said, tough sledding for them, but I'm generally confident in their abilities here. So, all right, I know we wanted to dive into some college stuff as well, but we'll probably hit pause on that for today. We'll make a separate video on it and break down similar matchup maps, plays and takes that we have for college football as well. But I want to just remind everybody again, if you haven't already, please hit like and subscribe on this video. We really appreciate it. We're really focused and intent on putting out a lot of good content for you guys. Follow us everywhere. Again, you can follow us at Bully the Board across all social medias. One of the cool things that we're doing this year is a lot of the graphics and maps that we've had during this video. Go to our website, bullytheboard.com. We have a lot of them up there for free for you guys to use, interpret, use in your own handicapping, use it to tail, use it to fade, whatever it may be. But one thing that we're also doing this year is we have a toolbox or toolkit, that's on a subscription or paid model. Very, very affordable, in our opinion, just $9 a month. But with that, you'll get access to all of the futures plays that we broke down and some that we didn't, as well as our weekly model predictions and more in-depth analysis, more in-depth matchup maps and efficiency data. So if you're interested in any of that, please check it out, bullytheboard.com. I think you guys will find some value in it for sure. So, all right, Seth, Steve, if I had to ask, of all the things that we talked about for this upcoming season, I don't know if I hear it, so I just want to ask each of you outright, whether it's a team futures or a player future, anything that you are really high on and you're putting your money where your mouth is. What is that one? Give me the one, Seth.
That's tough. I've bet everything we talked about today, so I put my money where my mouth is on all of these. I don't know. I'll give you two, and then I'll come from different angles. So where I think I'm the most, maybe I'm different than the market, but I have data to believe this, is that the Raiders have much more success. Now, quantifying much more success, I think, right? What have I bet? I bet the over 6.5. I bet them to win the Super Bowl at plus 7,500. And again, using the double dip methodology where I think they can overachieve and I can really make some money off that ticket. So that's one that I think I have a data driven reason to believe that. The kind of more whimsical, but also trying to be strategic, is the Rams to me are an enigma, question mark. They are somewhere between the future, building towards the future and still wanting to win now. And I think that what can happen there at quarterback could be quite interesting. I think that that at quarterback they could have, is it Sam Darnold? No, why do I get these guys fixed? Matt Stafford. Yeah. Matt Stafford can go down and Stetson Bennett goes in and has a little bit of success, right? To get offensive rookie of the year specifically, I don't think he'll have to win any more than 7 to 8 games. And I don't know that it's that crazy that we see an injury from Stafford. And if Kupp can come back and they have, that continuity there, what we're seeing out of Stetson in college and what we've seen early in the season, I think that this could be a really interesting situation where Stetson could come in. They don't do well in trying to win a Super Bowl, but they win 8 games. He leads them to, he wins them to 7 of those, let's say, and he wins offensive rookie of the year. I can really make a case for this. And when they're pricing it at plus 10,000, I don't think the probability of this happening is that low. I think it is low, no doubt. I think it's maybe a 1% chance if I'm being really generous, but when you're pricing it at, basically impossible odds, to me, it's a really great long shot that I could really make a case for. And I have bet that as well.
Yeah. I don't know. I think. Go ahead, Steve.
No, I was gonna say I see the logic and I like the logic. I think the smarter and safer bet for Stetson Bennett would be AARP Player of the Year, coming out of college at 46. So, but yeah, no, I'm rooting for you, man, all the way.
Oh man, well, how old is he?
No, he's like 23, something like that.
No. He's older than Lamar. I think he's 26.
26. No, I'm sorry. No, you're right. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
that's wild, man. Yeah. His career's halfway over in quarterback years as a rookie. Shout out.
Hey, I don't know. I mean, I just it's like right for like, because if I went back and looked, like how many did the Chargers quarterback wins? I'm so bad with names, but what's the offensive rookie of the year from the Chargers, their quarterback? Herbert, yeah. Herbert won it with 7 wins. Right? It doesn't take a lot of wins, right? It has to be like an impactful thing. And I can very much see that if they have to make that switch because of injury, that really could, I don't know. I just could see that situation happening, maybe more so than some of the others. It's a low play. Don't get me wrong. I'm swinging for the fences. It's probably not going to happen, but if it does, that's the ticket you want to own.
Sure. All right, Steve. Then, how do you feel about it? What's your one or two that you got?
Yeah, no. Again, the one I like the most is that the Falcons went over. I think there's just too many things at play there where you don't need as much reliance on a quarterback position. I should say elite quarterback play. And you have contingencies in place even if Ritter goes down or underperforms with Taylor Heineke. So
that's fair.
I think that's the most stable scenario you can have for 8.5. Yeah. When total, I love the expectation there. I think the smartest play, and I don't like it, my least favorite play is probably the Packers over, just for everything we already talked about. But those are the two I'm eyeing the most. Again, I have bet the Dolphins. We have talked about some of the other over the win futures. I do love the Browns, but I think Falcons, Packers, Browns are probably my big 3 in order, with the Dolphins being the one I want the most.
Nice, for sure. Yeah. So my last one is Niners to win the Super Bowl. Didn't break it down really, but take a look at whatever metric you want, whether it be QB volatility, EPA per play on either side of the ball, strength of schedule. Like pick one. The Niners are at the top in so many metrics. I was trying to crowdsource some data on TikTok Labs or whatever. Like, someone please convince me to not take this bet, not bet the Niners to win the Super Bowl at plus 1,000. Yeah. And what the only reoccurring thing that came up is, well, QB's unknown, like, Purdy, what's going to happen, blah, 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 and I will acquiesce and admit that, yes, there was a small sample size with him last year. Despite him being one of the most efficient, highly efficient quarterbacks last year.
I'm pulling up. I was going to pull up the I'm going to pull up the sim, because we can quantify this. Like, we can quantify like what is the probability of that happening.
Yeah.
And
so Seth mentioned it earlier too. What we're looking at here is Unabated's website. If you get an account, also, if you want to use our promo code, just use promo code BTB to sign up for a free 5-day trial on Unabated. They have a lot of useful tools on their website that we use to roll out our futures model and do some simulations. They have a lot of great tools that we'll continue to do some content around. But if you're unfamiliar with them, strongly suggest you check them out. Go to our tools and resources page on the website too, a little more information about them. And like I said, use code BTB, you get a free trial. So
looking at the Niners here, 10% to win. And you can see the numbers in green are EV. I mean, they're EV across the board. Pick your book you want to bet them at.
Right.
It looks like plus 1,000, like you're saying, is the best number, and you can get that all day. So there's alpha there. There's alpha there.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm happy. I'm happy that this is one of my plays. Even though, as a Cardinals fan, like, I don't, on an emotional level, want them to do well, but I prioritize my wallet over my emotions these days. So
smart.
I'm A-okay with it. Yeah. So, all right, boys, did I miss anything? What did we forget to give the people on this kickoff board meeting for NFL?
No, I think I'm excited. If you're interested, go to the website, sign up for the toolkit to see all the futures. There's a number of stuff in there. The other thing too, I would point out is for those of you that are looking to build your own model, we have made it so you can download the database where we do all of our analysis from. For both college and NFL. So if you're interested, this is part of the toolkit that you can download, and then you can create your own power ratings, you can create your own models, all this stuff, and you don't really need to have a whole lot of coding experience to do that, because the database will kind of be provided for you. So something I think is really cool if you're trying to kind of get into this for the first time and you don't know where to get data, this could be a pretty cool tool. And then, like Kevin said, there's a number of free tools that we would totally recommend you to check out because they can really help improve your betting. I mean, overall, that's what our goal is. How can we all collectively be better? How can we all, fix the leaks in our game, and how can we actually quantify our edges and, kind of give the books a little bit of run for their money, right? Rather than just, using leans and locks and all the hype that you see on social media. We try to be something different and actually impactful in that environment.
Yep, 100%. So well said, Seth. Steve, appreciate you guys. It's been good. Like I said, guys, we'll be doing a college football kickoff meeting as well. That's to come, but hopefully you found value in this. Again, don't forget to follow us, like and subscribe this video, Bully the Board everywhere. And with that, this board meeting, boys, is adjourned. We'll see you guys.